speak for themselves. Trump's tough strategy proved highly effective during his previous term. The high tariffs he imposed created formidable trade barriers that made in China struggle to overcome, officially igniting the world-famous US-China trade war. On November 5th, the US presidential election finally concluded, capturing the attention of the entire world. Trump stormed to victory with an impressive 312 electoral votes, crushing Kamala Harris's 226, and triumphantly reclaimed the White House. This time, he didn't just dominate the traditional red states, he also swept through the swing states, where presidential election polls had shown tight races, sending his supporters into a frenzy of celebration. After the election, the world is fixated on this charismatic and bold president. A staunch believer in America first, he isn't afraid to challenge any taboo. This time, how will he deliver on his promises and make America great again? We're all eager to find out. During his election campaign, Trump proudly championed his "tariffs are the ultimate solution" philosophy. With unwavering confidence, he declared that taxing foreign goods is not just an economic strategy, it's the key to reshaping America's destiny. In an interview, he enthusiastically proclaimed to the media, "Tariffs are the greatest thing in the world. Not only the best word in the dictionary, but also my personal favorite word." How can you not be inspired by such passion? Trump believes that cheap foreign goods are the ultimate culprits behind the destruction of American manufacturing. Factory closures, production outsourcing, and blue-collar unemployment. How can America tolerate such a crisis? Determined to take action, he set his sights on the biggest source of these cheap products, China, and vowed to hit them hard, pledging to impose tariffs as high as 60% on Chinese-made goods. Now this is what a true America First leader looks like. The facts speak for themselves. Trump's tough strategy proved highly effective during his previous term. The high tariffs he imposed created formidable trade barriers that made in China struggle to overcome, officially igniting the world-famous US-China trade war. Since the end of the Cold War, China has leveraged its cheap labor and massive manufacturing capacity to quickly dominate the US market, causing the US-China trade deficit to soar year after year. After China joined the WTO in 2001, the deficit spiraled out of control. By 2018, during Trump's presidency, the US-China trade deficit had exploded to a staggering $420 billion. What does that mean? That year, the total US trade deficit was $500 billion, and China accounted for nearly 85% of it. No wonder Trump was furious. For Trump, a steadfast believer in America First, this was an intolerable humiliation. He zeroed in on China, exposing its years of stealing American intellectual property and violating trade secrets. Without hesitation, he invoked Section 301 of the Trade Act, launching a full-scale counterattack against his economic adversary. Trump imposed tariffs ranging from 5 to 25% on $325 billion worth of Chinese goods, ultimately targeting $250 billion in total. These tariffs didn't just focus on tech products, they also hit consumer goods like metal furniture and automotive parts, aiming for a comprehensive strike on China's economy. And the result? Let's just say China felt the heat like never before. The initial phase of the US-China trade war dealt a heavy blow to China, with market confidence among its people plummeting, a decline that was directly reflected in the stock prices. That year, both the Shanghai Composite Index and the Hang Seng Index experienced significant drops. The Shanghai Composite fell 24% from its starting point of 3,314 at the beginning of the year, closing at under 25,000 by year end. Similarly, the Hang Seng Index plunged 13%, dropping from 30,028 at the start of the year to 25,845 by December. China's GDP growth rate also slowed from 7% the previous year to 5%. Although the hefty tariffs and trade confrontations did impact China's economy, China continued to seek alternative paths beyond the US market. In addition to imposing military tariffs on the US soybeans, one of its largest imports from the US, China also ramped up domestic production and actively sought new overseas markets. With Trump's failure to secure re-election, the US-China trade war appeared to come to a temporary halt. In fact, as early as the late 2019 to 2020, the two countries had signed a bilateral agreement. In this deal, China made several concessions to the US, including promises to import American agricultural products, respect US intellectual property rights, halt forced technology transfers, and reduce barriers in financial services. In exchange, the US agreed to lower its planned 50% tariff on $120 billion worth of Chinese goods from 2019 to 7.5%. This round of the US-China trade war has successfully allowed the United States to narrow its trade deficit with China. The immense pressure from economic blockades has also made China increasingly anxious. They need to find new ways to break free from the shackles imposed by the US. Otherwise, their massive production capacity and weak domestic demand will plunge the Chinese people into deep despair. China subsequently faced numerous challenges, including the economic impact of the pandemic, a real estate crisis, and a local government debt crisis. In recent years, foreign investors have rapidly withdrawn from China, significantly reducing the duration of their capital presence in the Chinese market. On top of this, China has been grappling with stagflation, which combined with declining market confidence has led to a reduced consumer spending. This in turn has caused severe stagnation in domestic demand. Over the past few years, China's consumer price index has hovered around 1%, occasionally even dropping below the 0% baseline, far below the 2% level typically considered healthy inflation. Weak domestic demand has been unable to support China's massive production capacity. As a result, China has once again turned to exporting goods overseas. This time, they have set their sights on the enormous opportunities in renewable energy. The production capacity for Chinese new energy vehicle batteries and solar panels has rapidly expanded. By 2023, Chinese battery giants like BYD and CATL have captured over half of the global market share. Just 3 years ago, LG was at the top of the leaderboard, but now it has been forced to relinquish its crown to CATL. The Chinese government heavily subsidizes state-owned enterprises, giving them significant production advantages and ensuring they remain competitive on the global stage. Additionally, Chinese-made solar panels have been explosive growth. Between 2021 and 2023, China's solar panel production capacity nearly doubled. Their output in modules, wafers, and polysilicon far exceeds that of other countries, accounting for over 60 to 70% of global production. At the same time, China continues to export cheap steel and aluminum, which steadily flow into the US market. Even though the Biden administration tightened restrictions on China's chip and semiconductor industries, limiting access to advanced technologies such as lithography machines and cutting-edge process chips, it still hasn't been able to stop China from flooding the global market with other cheap goods. The story above led Trump to his next plan, to raise tariffs on Chinese goods to 60%. In recent years, people have begun to realize that cheap Chinese goods are not always a blessing for consumers. They can also be a curse for the market. China's low-cost manufacturing has flooded the market with poor quality products while severely harming US manufacturing. The outsourcing of orders have led to massive job cuts in the US private sector. According to the Wage Data Analysis Report, in October 2024 alone, the US lost 7,000 manufacturing jobs. Additionally, government-released non-farm payroll data revealed a decrease of over 40,000 manufacturing positions in the same period. The manufacturing challenges brought by Made in China are clearly reflected in unemployment data. China's rule-breaking practices, including unfair subsidies to its companies and flooding overseas markets with massive production capacity, will harm countries around the world. To bring manufacturing back and protect domestic markets, we must impose economic sanctions on China. Tariffs are a good idea. More importantly, economically isolating China and establishing trade and manufacturing barriers can increase the difficulty of its production, restricting access to upstream, midstream, and downstream raw materials and equipment. By denying China access to these critical production tools, it becomes much harder for them to upgrade their industries. This would exacerbate the issues of overcapacity and industrial stagnation, putting greater pressure on China and forcing them back to the negotiation table to seek reconciliation. This is an ongoing battle, and we must remain vigilant to protect the hard-earned prosperity of our nation from the threats posed by China. After Trump's election, do you think China would have a chance to pose a threat to American industries? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed our video, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you next time. Bye-bye.